But we have a special guest with us here in person, Tomi Lahren, Fox Nation host. You all know her from, well, her appearances all across TV. Tomi, great to have you here with the three of us in Nashville, I've got to say.
Reunited, alas. My two good friends from very different places in my career, Buck and Clay. I'm glad to be with you boys. Bring some feminine energy. Glad you're in Nashville. Enjoy Nash Vegas, Buck.
I know, all the freedom here. It's amazing. And people like what I do, unlike in New York sometimes.
People are
really
friendly,
exciting.
too.
Yeah, I know. It's great.
So what would be your pitch, by the way, to Buck on why Nashville is a good place? And by the way, let me just say this for everybody listening. We're mostly full. We'll let Buck come in here, but the city's getting crowded. So in general, we don't need more people. But if you were pitching Buck on Nashville, what would you say?
Clay has a guest. He has a guest house, so I'm good.
I'm born and raised in Nashville, so it's changed a lot. But you've been here for a couple of years. How would you describe Nashville to Buck?
Well, I fled from L.A., and it's time for you to flee from New York to Nashville. I know you've got conservative principles and ideology, so you're welcome here. The other Californians and New Yorkers, I think they should check those at the door. But, I mean, I think it's pretty simple. Our food is good. We have a lot of freedom. We're a red state, no state income tax. And I got to say, as we discussed in the commercial break, the women here are beautiful.
We're a single guy, Buck. I'm just saying, there's a lot of good-looking girls.
A lot of fish in the sea.
So, Tomi, tell me about this Biden administration. I mean, I think the debate that I've been having...
Is he blushing, by the way?
The debate that I've been having a little bit is what the biggest political vulnerability at this stage. I think you got a lot. You got defund the police, you got the border, you got Afghanistan, you got the economy. What so far is the biggest Biden disaster?
I believe that they knew Biden was going to fail. I believe that Democrats knew this all along. They just thought Kamala would be a better option. I think that this has all been very predictable, but then they saw how Kamala dealt with everything, namely the border, which is, to me, the biggest disaster of this administration thus far. Every day it's something new. But I think they thought Kamala was going to be better. I think that they thought she could step in. They knew that Joe was failing. Let's all be honest. We saw the signs. Joe's been failing for several years. It's getting worse by the day. But then they looked at Kamala and her uncontrollable laughter at serious situations, and then they thought, ooh, now what are we going to do? Bring in AOC? Well, the squad, the radical left, they're running the party anyway. But their bench is not very deep right now.
So where do we go from here, right? Do you buy in? Because we got the Afghanistan debacle, and Buck and I have been talking about how long is this going to linger, right? Is it so bad, the Afghanistan situation, that some people out there start to say, you know what, let's tie this into border failure. Let's tie this into the murder rate skyrocketing, inflation, to COVID reemerging, all of these things which spell the narrative of Joe Biden is incompetent and so is his administration? Or do you think a week from now people are over Afghanistan because it's a distant country and we're back to focusing primarily domestically? Like, where do we go from here in your mind?
Well, similar to Joe Biden, I think this country has short-term memory, and I think that they move from one disaster to the next, but they never really pin it on the Democratic Party. I think it's easy to pin things on Joe Biden. It's harder for the American people to pin things on the Democratic Party because a lot of people still think that the Democratic Party is handling things well. I think it's easy to scapegoat Biden, but you have to understand that, like I said, I don't think Biden's been in charge of this administration for a while now, or if he ever was. So the Democrat Party, they're the ones that are at the helm. They're the ones with the reins. The American people need to understand when it comes time for midterms, they are the ones to blame. It's not just Joe Biden. It's all of them.
Who do you think the most powerful person, and we talk about this a lot, you know, Clay refers to it as the weekend at Bernie's presidency.
Yes.
I've called it and many others, it's obvious the Trojan horse presidency for the left, which is, I think, playing out in a way that we anticipated. Who is the most important voice in Joe Biden's ear / making the most powerful decisions, most important decisions for this Democrat administration in your mind? Is there one person? Are there a few people?
I think it's the globalists in general. I don't believe it's any American. I believe it's the globalist agenda that really has this administration by the horns. But I think that the mouthpiece is, of course, the squad. That's who they listen to. That's who they placate to, because that's the base that they can fire up. That's who gets everybody excited to get out. That's who's on TikTok and social media. It's the AOCs. It's the Tlaibs, the Ilhan Omars. They are the ones that are firing up the young people and getting them active. So they're the ones that are the mouthpiece. Are they really in control, maybe, of the agenda of the party? I'm not so sure.
We're speaking to Tomi Lahren, Fox Nation host. You could all check out her work at foxnation.com. And Tomi, I know you're big on border issues. You've been down there many times. I've been down on the border many times. It's obvious and clear that it's the worst that it has ever been. What remains to be seen is, do the American people know about it in enough numbers? Do you think they're getting the message about the fact that the border is, that Border Patrol people will tell, well, what do they tell you, actually? I don't want to put words in. What do Border Patrol folks say to you? Because I know what they say to me about the status of it right now.
There are so many that are just waiting for their retirement, waiting to get out. It's a lot like law enforcement officers. They look at what's happening. They realize that they are the welcoming committee. They realize that there is no will to secure and protect this border. So they're just down there day in and day out trying to do the best they can, going through the motions. But the Biden administration doesn't look at the border as a crisis because they look at it as an opportunity. They didn't just look at what's going on at the border and open the doors and say, boy, I wonder how this happened. They knew it was going to happen. They planned for it to happen. They want to get as many legal immigrants into this country as possible and give them voting rights. It's already happening. This isn't a conspiracy theory. Look at their bills. They've got amnesty all up and down, right and left. This is what they want. And the American people are going to see it because you can hide people in border cities and border states for a while. Once they start fanning out into the interior, it becomes much more obvious how many more people we have in this country.
Tomi, you're young and super active on social media. During the Trump administration, social media was a wasteland sometimes for conservative thought. In that they would just totally curtail it. You wouldn't be able to speak out as much. It seems to me that now that Joe Biden is in control, that some of that anger and venom is starting to fade. Are you seeing that at all, or do you think it's pretty much the exact same even though Trump is gone? What do you see in your activity on social media with the responses that you get?
The responses are still just as ugly towards me, but I'm a kind of a different character. So they love to go after me. They always will. I don't ever see that stopping. And I can handle that, quite honestly. I have really thick skin. What bothers me more is the censorship and the shadow banning. That has gotten far worse.
Can you tell a difference in terms of how it applies to you?
100%. And especially if I talk about anything COVID related, your numbers will go down drastically. Of course, we got the disclaimers on everything, but it's not just that. It's the messaging, and it's not being able to get the message out when you're talking about important things that they consider to be misinformation. We know that any level of conservative thought to them is misinformation. So anything COVID related, which is really one of the most important things that's going on in the world, definitely seeing this.
Where do you think this goes? I mean, I've been kicked off of temporarily suspended on platforms for saying things about COVID that turned out to be. I've been fact checked by PolitiFact. They never wrote me later to say, I'm sorry, Buck, you were right,
Alex
which
Berenson
they should have.
Was putting up today that what he was saying about the Israeli data a month ago, now with the booster shots being necessary, that was an unacceptable thing to say a month ago, even though the data was saying it.
And they don't care. I think now increasingly social media companies just realize they're an arm of the DNC, the Democrat Party, and the left, and if they have to violate whatever principles they pretend to have, they're fine with it. But Tomi, where do we go when we have now, I don't know the full number of cities, but I think you're going to see more and more in the weeks ahead enacting things like vaccine passports that they promised us. When I say they, the Democrats, Joe Biden, even folks in the media at the beginning were saying vaccine passports won't happen. They're happening. So where do we go from here?
Oh, yeah, I was called a conspiracy theorist when I said forced vaccination is on the way. And they said, no, that'll never happen. And to that, I responded, they just locked us in our homes for how many months? And if I would have told you that 2 years ago, that this was going to happen in 2020 and 2021, you would have called me a conspiracy theorist. But every step of the way, all these conspiracy theories have rung true. Where do we go from here? Well, we rely on governors. We hope that we have governors stand up like DeSantis, Abbott. We hope that our governor here in Tennessee will stand up and say, we're not doing this, we're outlawing it. And in those places that defy the orders, there needs to be consequences. There needs to be freedom, and the states are the only ones that are going to make sure to secure that.
What will you do, Tomi? We were talking about this earlier. Buck has got a wedding this weekend. His brother's getting married. And so in order to go in New York, he had to get a vaccine or they wouldn't allow him to attend a wedding. Those are the kind of choices that are being forced upon people all over the country. What will you do? Because I'm kind of thinking about it too. My wife asked me the other day what I would do if they start to say, hey, in order to get on an airplane, you have to be vaccinated, which I'm afraid could be something that happens this fall. Or
if we have a
winter.
bad winter, I think with COVID
that
cases,
happen,
I think it
right?
is going to happen.
It could very much happen. Like you're going down, you were telling us off the air, you do stuff for Fox Nation all the time. You're going to Miami. What happens then, right? Where Buck had to make a decision because he really wanted to do something. I think a lot of people are going to be faced with those decisions going forward, personal decisions that the government is making them make.
Yeah, it is a personal decision, and that's what vaccination should always be, especially when you have a vaccine that is still not FDA approved. Once they rush through that FDA approval, I don't know what the circumstances will be, but I would tell Americans, once you start giving your rights away, you will not get them back. So now that we keep facing these choices, if I want to do this, I guess I'm going to have to do that. Do I really want to personally do it for my health and well-being? No, but I want to do it to be able to live normal life. Okay, well then it's a vaccine. What's next? It's a really slippery slope once you start saying, well, if the government's going to make me do this, I guess I will. That is how socialism starts. Just keep giving away your rights so the government can dangle a carrot in front of your face. They did it with masks. They told us you get a vaccine, you don't have to wear a mask. And now it's got to wear a mask again. They never give you more rights. They only continue to take them away. Hope the American people understand that, because the writing's all on the wall.
Yeah, the safety data on the third shot, by the way. Oh, wait, there is no safety data on a third shot. Look at that. What a shock. I mean, not real safety data. They could say they rushed something through.
Every 8 months, potentially, for years into the future, are you going to be required, again, for people who are just starting off and listening to us, once you get your second vaccine now, the Biden administration is going to say in 8 months, you got to get a booster.
Yeah. And by the way, why not also force you to get a flu shot at that point, too? And, why not,
I don't know where it
why
is.
not have you swear allegiance to Biden and the squad while they're at it? I mean, this is just getting out of control, Clay. It's crazy. But
no doubt.
Tommy, where can people follow your stuff?
Fox Nation, Fox News. Of course, if you want to be one of my fans or my haters on Twitter and Instagram, at Tomi Lahren. I'm the only Tommy there, probably. And leave a nice comment, leave a mean one. Either way, I enjoy it.
Well, we would only leave nice comments.
I'm impressed.
Tommy,
I got to say this about Tommy. We've met for a couple of years now. Most people can't take the venom and vitriol online, period. Tommy can take it. I mean, that's the thing that's the most impressive. Share whatever her opinion is. A lot of people, this, Buck, they tiptoe up to what they think, and they don't want to actually be in the fire. I'm impressed that she can handle it every single day.
Tommy is a social media honey badger. She doesn't back down, doesn't give a what.
That's
Tommy,
exactly
great
right.
to see you. Thanks for coming in.
We'll see you in Nashville, Buck.
Absolutely.